India has a capability to build next generation frontier tech, not just for itself, but for the world.
Prashant Prakash, partner at Accel, one of the leading venture capital firms that has backed the likes of Flipkart, Freshworks, Swiggy and several others.
We grew up in my home seeing my dad transition himself from the public sector to become an entrepreneur. Did my master's there in computer science. There was some feeling maybe I should go back to India and see what possibilities there are in India to be able to build on the internet technologies and build the web for India. But I think what was still not there in those days is how do you get it funded, right? There were no VCs. You know, we rode the internet wave. We became a .com builder for the rest of the world. And then there was the .com bust.
And I was just, going through some of the data that in 2014 we had 500 startups. Today we have 2,07,000 startups.
Vision of the Prime Minister to get every Indian a bank account.
The
Right?
Jan Dhan.
So the Jan Dhan account. So that coincided with the UPI, fintech, all kinds of urban convenience started to get tapped as opportunities. This was another thought process of the Prime Minister, digital bridge that was possible between rural and urban India. Whether it is to be able to find better markets for products that the farmer had or find better prices, and this new focus on entrepreneurship and manufacturing coming together, finding new frontiers for space tech, and more recently opening up the nuclear industry. If you don't involve startups in these areas, you're not going to make progress.
What is going to be your next frontier now?
Yeah, so of course it has to have something to do with AI, right? But in AI, what?
Think of some of the biggest names in India's startup ecosystem. Swiggy, Flipkart, Urban Company. The guests today on the GDP podcast identified the potential of these companies when no one gave them a chance. And no wonder today he's known as India's startup guru. He just didn't back them. He built runways for growth for these companies. He's an investor. He's an ecosystem builder. He's a philanthropist. He's a bridge between policymakers and entrepreneurs. It's an absolute honor to welcome founding partner Accel India, Padma Shri awardee, Prashant Prakash on the GDP podcast. Prashant, welcome to the GDP podcast.
Sharad, thank you. It's my pleasure to be on the podcast. And some of these companies that you just mentioned were investments by the company, Accel, that I'm a co-founder of. And it's just not me, but it's the entire team at Accel that has made some of these possible.
Yeah, that's true. In fact, any individual's success really is not that individual's success. There are so many people involved behind it. And I was doing a bit of research on your life, and I realized the original seed funder when it comes to your life was your grandfather.
Yeah, so I'm fortunate now to be in a family where we have 4 generations of engineers. So this is a real engineering family, right? My daughter is also an engineer.
Okay.
So my grandfather, who is close to born close to the Nandi Hills here in Bangalore, was one of the first electrical engineers.
Of the country?
From the state. Of the state here in Karnataka.
Wow.
And so in those days, electrical engineering was very, very nascent. We're talking pre-independence, right? So he went all the way to the UK to do kind of a master's in those days, and came back and set up one of India's first power generation stations at
Wow.
Jog Falls here in Shalavati. So yeah, it started. So he's been one of the very early pioneers in what was high tech in those days.
That's true. The spirit of disruption, I think, and that's very distinctive when it comes to your family. And then when it came to your father, he was working with HMT. I think,
HMT, yeah,
right?
you're right. I mean, so he was working with the foundry part of HMT, yeah.
And he had a side hustle?
He had a side hustle, which then became his full hustle.
Yes.
So he, people when today say Prashant, doesn't entrepreneurship wasn't entrepreneurship intimidating? I said no, because we grew up in my home, seeing my dad kind of transition himself from the public sector to become an entrepreneur.
And that's something for that age, at that time.
Yeah. And because there's no funding, right,
That's
in
right.
those days. So you had to start with the bank loan, and so that was.
And I think your grandfather was the first seed investor.
Yeah, so he did help him getting started. But yeah, so been.
And when you saw your dad balancing the PSU job and of course trying to build something,
Yes.
what impression did it have on your young mind?
I think there's probably a bigger thing that I saw in my dad all through, right? Which was his passion for wanting to build stuff, right? And I think he was a person who was always fascinated by gadgets. He was a person who always, was tinkering with something and finding a solution for something, which needed, some solution. So it was that part that I saw that, he saw opportunities when he could find a space that required a solution. And I think when he saw those, so I saw him kind of test and iterate and tinker with a few possibilities in those very early days before he landed up building a startup, right? So that was the portion of a startup journey where one really takes their passion for something and ideates on that, iterates on that, and goes deep into it, and then arrives on what to do. That part of the journey is what I kind of was able to observe as a kid and grow up alongside that journey.
Very interesting. And then I think in early 80s, a PC arrived at your home.
Yes.
And that was again very pivotal in your journey.
Yeah. And in those days, a PC cost more than a car, or almost the same as what a car would cost you.
Must have
in
cost
India.
about $1 lakh.
$1 lakh plus, yes. So it was really a pivotal moment in my life, right? So you had this gadget which was cutting edge in those days, and I'd just also joined my undergraduate program in computer science here in Bangalore. So it was an opportunity for me to just not go to class and do what everybody else does, just get bored with books, but play around with this PC, and that's where my journey started with programming and getting familiar with the power in those days of the PC.
And that's very interesting because, as a businessman, your dad chose to invest about $1 lakh on a PC.
In those days, yeah.
In those days, which just shows a very different kind of an approach.
And we were still a largely middle class family. So it was not like, we had a lot of money. So I think he had the priorities right.
Wow, brilliant. Uh, and then, you do your education and you go abroad.
Yeah.
And then you do something which is very surprising, at least must have been very surprising to a lot of your peers, that you decide to come back to India.
Yeah, so of course, did my master's there in the
Yes.
US in computer science. And it was a common thing in those days. As soon as you finish your master's, you join a software job, and that's what I did. But very interestingly, it's around the same time that the internet kind of started to become mainstream and more in the form of the web. So we had Netscape
That's right.
launch in those days. And that was a
And you were a student at that time.
Netscape kind of, no, I had started to work. I started to work, this was 94, 93. That's when I think Netscape, it's around that time. It launched in the US. But what was really visible is that the web would change the world, right? And there was some feeling, at least, that, maybe I should go back to India and see what possibilities there are in India to be able to build on the internet technologies and build the web for India. And that
And
really,
why come to India? Because you could already see a very good future there in
the
US.
US, yeah. So I think maybe it was having seen my dad build in India. It was not very intimidating, and I thought as an opportunity, why not, look at India as the playground where I would build and build my dreams, right? And to some extent, I have to say my wife was always very open to the idea of coming back, and a lot of people in those days wouldn't come back because their spouses wouldn't want to come back
That's
to
true.
India. So I was very fortunate that she was very keen on also coming back to India. So I think it worked out, and looking back, this is one move that I would never change.
One thing which I think is very interesting about your approach to life is that trying to see how the future is going to evolve and make a move, basis that.
Yes, and it's played out that way. I mean, when you look back and connect the dots, you're very right. So every 10 years, there's been this kind of frontier change, right? The next frontier. So I've always wanted to say, okay, what next?
What next?
What next? And okay, this is done. Yeah, and for me in those days, going to the US was one frontier.
Frontier.
And then coming back to India and wanting to build here was the next frontier.
And the first venture that you started was in animation?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So, okay, you have this dream of wanting to come to India and build the internet. And you come back to India and you realize that we are working with 9600 baud modems. There is no internet here. So what do you do, right? So you come here to build the internet, and you know that without connectivity, what do you do? So that's when I did see that I had worked a little bit with animation in the US as a interface designer. I was in the nuclear simulations product building space in the US. For training simulators. So I was kind of intrigued by how visualization and animation and some of these spaces were kind of changing. Visual reality was born out of that potential I saw of creating content. So this was kind of a precursor to the creator economy that you see here today. So in those days, you could, we had CD-ROMs.
Yeah.
So I ended up building a company that would author and create content for these CD-ROMs on Indian subjects. It was on Indian cooking, on yoga, multiple content areas that were relevant to India, for India, and these content CD-ROMs would then get sold all over the world. So that's, and we also did a lot of animation for the architectural industry, 3D animations. It it had, people were wanting to visualize their houses, and real estate developers were wanting to visualize how their buildings would look like. So a little bit of animation content. So that's how started with visual reality. But thankfully, in just 2 years and 2.5 years from starting visual reality, the modems were replaced with very early broadband.
Yes.
In India, and broadband mostly in companies.
Yeah.
End users at home did not have broadband in those days. It was just 64 Mbps broadband would be what a company could get in those days. So with that opportunity is how I got started with Netcraft.
So Netcraft happened.
Yes.
And how were those days at Netcraft?
So those days were like very, very early startup days in India. You had the first wave of, and they were startups, right? The Infosys and Wipros in their own way. So it's not like the idea of having a tech company in Bangalore was not alien. But I think what was still not there in those days is how do you get it funded? Right? There were no VCs, literally, in those days. There were a few.
And how would the funding happen?
So you would just have to do it from money from family or some relatives or friends. Those were the only sources.
No formal structures.
There was no formal structures to get funded. 1 or 2 years into Netcraft, couple funds started to emerge, and one of them we did raise money from them. But when we started, which was around 97, 98, there were no really formal funds. There was ICICI Ventures, which had started, but still very far and few in between. So that was a big challenge. Capital was a big challenge in the ecosystem. Also, hiring for startups was also not easy in those days. So people would not very easily join startups in those days. So getting the best talent was also not easy. So Netcraft, we rode the internet wave. We became a .com builder for the rest of the world. So we were building, the internet presence for large corporations, retail chains in UK and US. And then there was the .com bust. So in 2000, 2001. So we had to learn the hard way what it is also to downsize yourself, and capital became even more constrained when you just had a whole bunch of customers just vanish overnight. But it did at least make me understand the value of resilience in startups and what it means to rebuild. So we actually rebuilt from being a .com builder for consumer companies to being a B2B company. So we started becoming an enterprise internet company, where we started helping large companies like Carrefour actually reinvent their supply chain on the internet. So we became more of an enterprise B2B internet company rather than just a dot-com builder. And all of this will, for the new entrepreneur, will sound very archaic and ancient. But yeah, but those were the days where you had to really build from India with whatever tech you could get as new tech or frontier, because a lot of the other IT companies like Infosys and Wipro were busy with Y2K.
That's right.
So there was an opportunity here to use contemporary technologies and build companies from India, and that's what we did in Netcraft. So Netcraft, like I said, got built back after the dot-com collapse, and we grew into a much larger company, and 2004 ended up exiting the company, selling the company.
And that's when you pivoted into venture capital space.
Yes. So that's when I intersected again with my classmate from grad school in the US, Shubhrato, and he had followed a similar trajectory. And it's very crazy how in life some of these things happen from a serendipity perspective, right? So he was a Bengali from Calcutta, studied in the US, did his PhD there, worked in the US, moved back also to Bangalore, did a startup here in Bangalore. And that startup almost got an exit around the same time. So here were two of us who had to figure out what next. And that's how Erasmic got born. Yeah.
And why did you decide that you need to get into this space?
Actually, initially we didn't think of Erasmic as a fund. We looked at Erasmic as almost an incubator, because we didn't think that there were that many startups already in the country, I mean, that were visible to us to say that, you know what, we should set up a fund and start funding them.
You thought there is no need gap in that sense?
There's no need gap, and what probably there's a gap for is supporting. Initially we started with this idea that we wanted to create more Netcraft kind of companies, more special in specialized areas. And we actually ended up doing one of the first companies in that space, Musigma, which was a very specialized analytics company that got built out by Dheeraj Rajaraman. That's what we got started out with. So it was an incubator for helping entrepreneurs who wanted to come back to India and use Indian talent, but build a very specialized services company using contemporary technologies for the rest of the world. Just like, I mean, and very few things change. The same thing today is happening in AI, right? People wanting to do specialized AI services companies from India for the rest of the world. So it's 20 years hence, and the same thesis.
The same cycle.
The same thesis holds good, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we started out. So it was a kind of a specialized incubator for building cross-border companies from India. But about a year into it, Google was setting up in India, and what you now know as GCCs, Global Capability Centers, where global tech companies were no longer outsourcing to Infosys. They were setting up their own R&D and their own centers in India.
Yeah.
And that's what we saw as a signal of good talent now staying back in India and building product in India, albeit for a global company, but they were just not going from their IITs or their BITs straight to the US. They were coming in and joining these GCCs in Bangalore. And one of them that Amazon had already started, Google was setting up here. And they approached us and said, if you guys are doing a venture fund, we will support you guys. And Shubhrato in those days was going all across the world we were trying to raise a very small fund, $10 million. But it was very fortunate that Google said, you know what, we'll do like 50% of the fund. So it was very easy for us to raise the remaining 50%. And that's how Whereas Big got started. As a fund,
Yeah.
as a seed fund, and with really not a lot of visibility on who the entrepreneurs are. So, so that it was
You were
still a
not
leap
sure.
of,
You were still thinking you will need to go looking for them.
looking for entrepreneurs. So it was a leap of faith, not just on starting a fund, but also on who is our consumer.
And then in 2008, Accel India was born.
Yeah, Accel India was born, and it's around the same time that I just mentioned about this GCCs having
Yes.
attracted talent, and one of the GCCs, Amazon, had attracted Sachin and Binny to come and join them
Okay.
in Bangalore,
Uh-huh.
and they came out of Amazon and had just launched Flipkart, and we were very fortunate that we intersected with them in those days, and Shubrato.
You mentioned Abhishek Goyal.
Yeah, Abhishek Goyal was in the same community as these boys, right? Sachin and Binny. So Abhishek Goyal was very keen on us supporting them. It took us some time to really muster the courage to do an e-commerce startup when really we everybody cautioned us to say that I don't think it's a business that you fund with a $10 million fund. E-commerce takes a lot of money, and I don't know what you guys are thinking, trying to start.
But what were you thinking?
I mean, I think we were entrepreneur first. That's what. So it was about Sachin and Binny really. It's about what we saw in them.
What did you see?
Yeah,
then?
we really saw them be very customer first in their approach, and they really schooled us. And from then to now, I think what really we anchor on is the entrepreneur kind of giving us those wow moments on some things that are not so intuitive to us when we go into a meeting or a discussion with them, but they kind of open our eyes and say, wow, this is what they're thinking. This is what they have discovered. This is what they've landed up on as a customer understanding, in their customer understanding journey. This is where they have landed. So
that becomes a huge right to win.
It become, but being able to actually sense that,
Yeah.
and being able to see the forward thinking thought process of the entrepreneur, and being able to then anchor around that and say, okay, you know what, this is something we are excited about and we would like to build on that. So that's how it started. So we were just amazed that every time they came and met us, Shubrato and me, they were very quickly iterating their thought process and very quickly changing what they thought was product market fit. So that really gave us the confidence that, I don't know where we'll get the money to support these guys over time, but they seem to be anchoring on the right things. And I think they would be great guys to support and fund. So that's how that journey started with Flipkart. But just the Accel journey itself, being part of a global platform,
Yes.
I think was also a big exposure for us to be able to understand from them, entrepreneurship, the journey of the trajectory of entrepreneurship in the valley and what had happened, and having them validate that what they had already seen in Europe and what they had seen in China would also happen in India before it actually happened. So it was very interesting that a fund that was not even in India saw that
Potential.
the potential for what Indian ecosystem, could become over time. was something that was an eye opener for us. So and gave us a great platform to build on.
And then, of course, a slew of companies started getting
Yeah,
built.
and then what? And it's probably about 15 years hence. I mean, 15 years ago, a few years hence after Flipkart, I think the mobile ecosystem started to build.
Yes.
So while the internet was there in those days, it was still patchy. There was still not a lot of access. There were 10 million people probably in all of India who had access to internet, and that too in their corporate workplace. So it was not easy to just believe that a lot of consumer internet opportunities were there in this country. And but things started to kind of inflect once the mobile explosion or expansion started to happen in India. So that was I think, the inflection point.
And coinciding with this was also, in 2014 we had a new government, and they brought in a certain energy.
Right. So in between, actually, you had some early seeds of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, but what you didn't have is a belief that the future of this country is somewhere closely intertwined to what startups can do. So the idea that startups will become central and will become pivotal in building the economy was something that the government in 10 years, I mean in 12 years ago, and in fact I think we are coming to the 10 years of Startup India.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really, it started to coincide around the same time data becoming very cheap in India. It started to also coincide with the India Rails and both the digital ID, Aadhaar ecosystem that got built. So some of these factors coming together, I think just catalyzed the ecosystem further, and also new sectors started to emerge. So it was no longer just about buying e-commerce related products online. So you started to see companies like Swiggy, all kinds of urban convenience started to get tapped as opportunities. And around the same time, we went from a country that was just building for India, the whole SaaS ecosystem started to build, and Freshworks was one of the first companies in India, and we were again fortunate. Shekhar, my partner, funded Freshworks, and it was again a fast follower moment, right? So there was enterprise technology in the US, but there was a belief in people like Kirish, the founder of Freshworks, that you could build 2x the product at 1x the price from India.
Wow!
At half the price. So being able to be frugal and build get new product momentum from this frugality, and be able to build enterprise products from India was also a new journey.
Absolutely.
And then around the same time, you had the digital payment ecosystem.
The UPI.
The UPI.
The entire infrastructure.
The entire, from the vision of the Prime Minister to get every Indian a bank account.
The
right?
Jan Dhan.
So the Jan Dhan account. So that coincided with the UPI rails also being built. And once you started seeing the friction lowered with digital payments, all kinds of new financial services, fintech opportunities started to emerge. So you had consumer internet, you had SaaS, and then you had a lot of fintech opportunities kind of emerge. So we ended up raising almost 4 to 5 funds over those almost maybe 5 to 6 funds over those 10-12 years.
Wow, it's been a phenomenal run. And I was just, going through some of the data that in 2014 we had 500 startups. Today we have 2,07,000 startups.
Yeah.
Which is like which is 415 folds increase.
Right.
In that. 4 unicorns in 2014. We have today 125 active unicorns.
Yeah.
Valuation exceeding $350 billion.
Yeah.
It just looks unreal now in what we've achieved in this 10 years. And
Yes,
I think the vision of the government, played a big role in making this.
Yeah, so I think, what people may not, today looking back, understand is I think the government did not look at itself as just a cheerleader. They looked at themselves as actual influencers. The government looked at themselves as making policy that actually catalyzed and influenced real entrepreneurship and company building in the country. Whether it was about policies that the whole initiatives around Startup India and DP,
That's right.
what the policies of DPIIT, taking away some of the incumbent older tough to grapple with regulations in the
Yes.
country and making them more friendly to startups. And I think it's been a continuous journey, but they have every year from those 2014 days just actually reinvented their own thinking. And as the industry has evolved, their own thinking on what the industry needs for support and what the industry needs to kind of make the next leap is something that they've been extremely proactive with.
I think, in a way, the government approached you as customers and tried to understand what exactly are you looking at and try to pivot quickly.
And also look at spaces, right? So if you see, we have gone from a nation where we would just code and build for somebody based on what they wanted, to a country where we started building our own products,
Yes.
right? But the products were not necessarily cutting edge. They were what I would call as fast followers. But to now being actually frontier, being in areas of frontier innovation, right? So we have made this journey, and as we have made this journey, the government has seen opportunities in space, by privatizing space tech, for example.
That's right.
Seeing opportunities in how to build national resilience and what I would call as sovereign resilience, right? How can startups and technology play a role in building that sovereign resilience? Strategic autonomy for a country is not going to come from today, any other space than innovation and technology. So, and I think the government has been in the forefront of realizing that unless you get startups to be at the center of fueling and building on this opportunity, you can have, as a nation, we can have all kinds of aspirations, but if we don't enable those aspirations, and if we don't make policy that will make it easy to take, for example, what ISRO has built in the country and make it now accessible and usable for the next generation of startups wanting to build in space, these will remain pipe dreams, right, in the country. So, and very similar journey in the defense ecosystem. We have to modernize our defense. We have to get more AI and autonomy into our defense ecosystem. And the IDEX program has been a big game changer. And we saw a lot of that in operations.
Of course, we saw that. Yeah. And some really amazing, startups have played such a pivotal role in the entire operation.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part is that there is now a geopolitical belief that India has a capability to build some of these products and next generation frontier tech, not just for itself, but for the rest
the
of
world.
for the world. And I think that's what things like Operation Sindoor opened up as an
Yes.
opportunity for startups. So today, I think startups have to look at, if you look at newer startups, if you ask me, next generation entrepreneurs have 10x the space to build. You're not limited to just urban India having aspirations and building products like Flipkart and Swiggy and Book My Show. You're starting to see now tier 2 India,
Yeah.
tier 3 India, wanting to consume the same products. The Indian agri ecosystem, the Indian edtech ecosystem, all wanting to build for access, build for new aspirations. So that's a very huge opportunity. And
The
other
world
thing,
is opening up.
The world is opening up. So there are these three big spaces, and and plus, like we said, these factors like policy and abundant capital. So you have really a coming together of abundant capital, very, very supportive policy, and raw dreams and raw ambition of the next generation Indian entrepreneur, all coming to play in a global geopolitical ecosystem where people are looking at multipolar innovation. They don't want innovation to be limited to one country, one cluster. They want Bangalore to be as innovative as Beijing or as the Valley. So that is the opportunity for the Indian entrepreneur, and the government has definitely realized that. And maybe there's another space that we can talk about, which is manufacturing. So we as a country were very early in, once we got our independence, we started to we had the public sector ecosystem, and we started in the very early days to try to be an industrialized nation. But I think somewhere we lost our way.
Yes.
So I don't think our industry ever built itself to be global, except maybe in a few places like auto, in some way. And the government saw that opportunity, and that's what they created policies.
Make in India.
The Make in India and a few other policies
Yes.
that really helped catalyze now what I would call as Industry 4.0, or I would say what we're also calling as advanced manufacturing. We have to look at, can we use deep tech? Can we use technology and AI at the center of our manufacturing efforts? So higher value add, higher value, going up in the value chain in our manufacturing is something that I think you need fresh minds, you need entrepreneurs, and I'm really glad to see that manufacturing is not for the faint-hearted. It is not an easy space. It's not like just building a tech sitting in an air-conditioned office, right? So
it's blood and sweat.
It's blood and sweat, and it's dealing with very complex ecosystems.
That's right.
The
interdependencies are too much.
The interdependencies are many, and you have to, your manufacturing is also multidimensional.
Yes.
While I say that you will have a lot of new tech in manufacturing, there will still be this large workforce that you have to deal with.
Yes.
You will still have to build factories, 200-300 kilometers from urban centers. So it's something that is going to be very new for entrepreneurs. And there's also, things like CapEx. You got to first build your factories before you can sometimes start delivering your product. So it's a new space. It's something that both VCs and entrepreneurs have to get used to. But it's a I believe, $1 trillion opportunity. If we go from a 4 trillion to a 7-8 trillion economy, I believe that advanced manufacturing and deep tech, all fueled and supported by startups, will contribute to at least $1 trillion here.
That's very interesting. I want to now talk a bit about our nation's leadership. We've had the opportunity to meet the Honorable Prime Minister. When was the first time you met him?
So this was very interestingly, one of his dreams has also been, how can I take a lot of technology to the grassroots? And I, from a very early days, like I've been talking about these new frontiers. So after we were done with this urban convenience and building for urban India, the next frontier kind of I started working on is the agri-tech ecosystem, and how can you make accessible a lot of these technologies which were confined to tier 1, tier 2 cities, from a broader nation building perspective, whether it is for education or agri, or giving new capabilities to the next generation of agri entrepreneurs who are ready to use these tools and capabilities, who had data, who knew how to use mobile phones. How can we empower them? So he called a few of us for a discussion at his home to understand how can we 10x, or how can we accelerate some of these technologies to empower the farmer, empower the next generation farmers to be able to use technology. So, and that's how we ended up also investing in a lot of companies.
So how was that interaction? What exactly did you guys speak about?
We spoke about, what are the roadblocks today, what's really holding the Indian farmer from being more productive, and what can they kind of leverage in the ability to say not only how to grow, but what to grow, and how can I grow better? Can we use a knowledge dissemination, that what is possible with the mobile phone, and can we give them new market connects? So these were areas that he kind of coaxed us to
That's very interesting coming from him. So because these are very sharp points.
Correct. And so I came away from that meeting saying, you know what, I think if entrepreneurship has to really impact the nation, you can't ignore this 200 million, 250 million families in rural India.
That's true.
Right. And for whom agriculture is the center of their livelihood. And so since then I've been very closely, and I ended up also building Krishi Kalpa, which is a social organization that improved connects between startups and FPOs. Right. And this was another thought process of the Prime Minister, that how can we build institutional and systemic connects between organizations like FPOs and urban startups, so that whether it is to be able to find better markets for products that the farmer had, or find better prices, you could leverage this bridge, that digital bridge that was possible between rural and urban India. And a lot of that also got played out during COVID.
Absolutely. Well, it's very interesting that you speak about this, and during our GDP podcast, I've met many entrepreneurs, and they echo the same sentiment that you're echoing, that the Prime Minister's understanding of these issues is very deep. And then also he gives you these thought triggers.
Yeah,
Which,
triggers
kind
that-
of inspires you to then
Yeah.
start working on.
And you will say that, okay, fine, I mean, it's one meeting, but we've since then had multiple industry level interactions, maybe not, one-on-one or five-on-one interactions. And in each of these, I think interactions, like when he was there for the first Mahakumbh, to many other industry forums. There's very few talks that you'll hear from him where you'll not see him kind of rally the entrepreneurs in the country, because I think he really believes very strongly that when it comes to job creation, when it comes to, like I said, strategic autonomy, and when it comes to making education, health, and multiple other social needs accessible to a billion Indians, I think I don't think you can do it without startups. And and this new focus on entrepreneurship and manufacturing coming together, and space, and finding new frontiers for space tech, and more recently opening up the nuclear industry.
Absolutely.
So these are very, very forward-thinking policies that I'm sure are coming from his belief that if you don't involve startups in these areas, you're not going to make progress. And that's really, I think, hugely encouraging for the entrepreneur.
And when the head of the nation, who kind of acts like your ambassador, and he speaks openly about the impact of the startup, ecosystem, does that have an impact on the optimism of the entire industry in general when, the Prime Minister speaks about it?
Definitely, and like I said, it is not just speaking about it, but articulating very clearly why and where is the role important for nation building. So you can rally people better if you show them
The way.
and show them how in a very concrete
Role defined for each one.
each one, and whether it's an entrepreneur who is thinking of building something, like I said, for the defense, to improve our defense preparedness, or an entrepreneur who's building to make healthcare more accessible in the country, or if it's an entrepreneur who's ensuring that, like I said, our farmers have better markets, or we are kind of powering rural employment through manufacturing and building these next generation of products for the rest of the world. I think in each of these areas, the PLI scheme is a very good example.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah. It's a game changer.
Which the Honorable Prime Minister and Piyush Goyal, the Commerce and Industries Minister, engineered, that now has made a huge difference to manufacturing viability, and has catalyzed that ecosystem in the country.
Amazing. You've observed the Prime Minister very closely. You've had meetings with him, and have now collaborated with him on projects. 3 leadership qualities which you think which stand out in him.
First, I think having the vision to say, this is where I want to take the nation. Right? That leadership quality is what gives entrepreneurs confidence that the leader knows and has the vision of where to take this nation. The second thing is crisis leadership. Right? We as a nation, there will be and even as a startup, there will be multiple points in which there is crisis, and can you demonstrate that in that crisis, right, how you can bring people together. In that crisis, how can you build a model of collaboration and bringing to bear every capability that your company has or the nation has to be able to get and solve that crisis, right? The third is, I would say, a strong belief in technology and future thinking, that if you have to be competitive as a nation, if you have to be relevant as a nation, you got to think 10 years ahead, right? You got to always be aware that in today's world, uh, the digitization of cognition, the digitization of everything is, and that's why he's so excited about AI
Yeah.
and what the potential of AI. So I think these are the three things: being able to have a vision for the nation, being able to lead the nation in very difficult situations, and be resilient. And number three, have a forward-thinking mindset in what you're building.
One initiative where you've been closely associated has been the startup Mahakumbh.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. What was the vision with which you started?
Yeah, this was something that, the national, it was not just my vision. The National Startup Advisory Council that I'm part of,
Yes.
which is headed by the Honorable Minister Piyush Goyal, wanted to showcase India's capabilities for ourselves and for the rest of the world, right? And we thought that, we had these small mini conferences and events, but nothing that did justice to what our capabilities were as a nation. So that was the idea. So
it should, you were thinking not just an industry event,
it
but
was
a
not-
showcase event.
It's a showcase event for a multi-sectoral showcase event, not only for entrepreneurs, but for entrepreneurs and investors and future entrepreneurs too, right? So
that you inspire and you create that
correct.
culture of entrepreneurship.
Entrepreneurship. So that was the idea. And it was really heartening to see the response we got.
2 lakh people walked in?
In the most recent one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we'll probably do it every other year now, and look forward to how this.
And what were the learnings from that? What new things did you learn in the Kumbh?
I think from the Mahakumbh, I think what really how broad-based and democratized the whole startup ecosystem had become, right? That, it was no longer limited to the aspiration of a tier one or the top IITs or people who were coming from these most established institutions, but we had almost people from every district of the country come and actually very strongly want to participate and be part of the startup revolution that's happening in the country. So I think the biggest eye opener for us is that the idea of Startup India, which the Prime Minister had, has become all pervasive.
And do you see that we are now as a nation, becoming more entrepreneurial? Because there was a time, I think the 70s and the 80s, which I remember, where your parents will always advise you to play it safe, don't take risks, just do a job. And now you intuitively feel that, people are becoming more and more bolder and are becoming more entrepreneurial. Do you see that shift?
Definitely. And I think this has been a progressive kind of upgrading of the boldness and this dare to dream and dream bigger that we have seen over the last 2 decades. And in the last decade, like we have seen like a 10x jump in self-belief.
Yes.
But when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think it's in our DNA.
Really?
But it never got itself the right wings, and it never got itself the right expression, right? I think we if you look at, you know, um, generationally,
That's true.
I think we have been, you know, from many millennia, a very innovative country. You know, we have had innovation, but we have lost out on we lost out on, for various reasons, the Industrial Revolution, and we spoke about that. So I think we are just giving wings to, I think, what I believe, is inherently in our DNA. And we also new role models now. And it took some time to see role models of entrepreneurs who have built scale. It took some time to see role models of entrepreneurs who could build, you know, $1 billion in revenue in a few years, which was unthinkable in the country. Companies took a decade or two to get to $1 billion in revenue. So here you had companies building to $1 billion in revenue in 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So I think people, as in entrepreneurs, have seen new possibilities. And these possibilities, I think, have given them the ambition to dream on the next big possibility, right? So, and globally, I think there has been an even bigger belief now, which is very encouraging, that Indian entrepreneurship and what Indians can build has a place in what I'm calling as this whole new multipolar world of innovation.
Prashant, 2025 was special for you. You got the Padma Award. That was a big honor for you. Personally, what did it mean to you?
You know, before I talk about what it personally meant to me, I want to say what it meant for the ecosystem, right? So I think the startup ecosystem, like I said, has been pivotal in being a job creator in not just urban India, now across the country. The startup ecosystem has helped us build technical resilience as a country, right? And the startup ecosystem has also become central to the future of the economy as a whole. So I think it was squarely a recognition of that. It was the role that was played by not just, you know, a few entrepreneurs, but hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs in building this ecosystem, and what other nations took 3 decades or 4 decades to build. I think we demonstrated that we could build that in a decade, decade and a half. It was also a recognition of the role of investors and what investors can do to fuel these dreams and to make these dreams a reality. I think it was a recognition of that. And it was also a recognition that ecosystem building is as important as, you know, a specific outcome for a company or a specific outcome for a fund. That they wanted to recognize that you know, it's really important to value or recognize the value of what collaborative synergies can do to further some of these institutions.
Amazing. And I think, you know, kudos also to the government that they recognized entrepreneurship as a genuine form of nation building.
Yes, yes. And I think we had an opportunity to talk in this podcast about the Prime Minister's real, like I said, strong belief of the role of entrepreneurship. And I think this kind of reflects in recognizing this as being central to nation building, like you mentioned. See, I think there is one is nation building, but I think it's also important that there is value to things that are novel and frontier. recognizing that value, that what is not only important is that you recognize industry or recognize building a lot of wealth or recognize building large companies. It is to recognize that being able to build what is next generation, being able to change the status quo in a particular industry. I think all of that, I believe the government and the Prime Minister strongly believe, can only come from startups.
Amazing. So you spoke about frontier. So what is going to be your next frontier now?
Yeah, so of course it has to have something to do with AI, right? But in AI, what? So I think I'm trying to intersect two spaces. One, what is from a embedded value of AI going to really change things disruptively more than any other space, right? And I believe it's in healthcare. Healthcare and biotech, I think, are two areas. So I strongly believe that it's very important to use the possibilities of AI and what AI can do in healthcare to be able to support this next generation of evolution of the health ecosystem in the country across the board, whether it's to build more novel drugs from India, whether it's to get more genetic data in the country, which will help us tailor some of our therapeutics for our country. It is also being able to build resilience in people who are in their 40s and 50s to be able to be more productive in their 60s and 70s. So it's across multiple dimensions. I think AI has a role, like I said, in diagnostics and in therapeutics and in all aspects of scientific wellness. I think there's a role for AI to change the healthcare industry in the way we know today.
So we are going to continue to see you disrupt things and rewrite the rules and create new interesting spaces and industries. So this is going to be very exciting for us. So now it's time for rapid fire round.
Great.
Are you ready?
Ready for it.
Okay. Your first startup instinct, build it yourself or invest in someone else's idea? The first instinct.
Build it. And by the very nature of what I've always wanted to do, I want to build. And yeah, it's build first.
One word to describe Indian entrepreneurs today.
Raw and bold.
Your most overused phrase in board meetings.
Manage your burn.
Early stage founder trait that you instantly fall for.
I think their inherent depth and passion for a space that seems second nature to them.
Mm-hmm. One sector you wish you had invested earlier.
I think we pretty much have followed through and invested and been on the forefront. I think we've probably not done a lot in space, and maybe we should have done something in space earlier.
Coffee or chai during long decision days?
Neither.
A tough no that you've had to say to a founder?
I would say that there are been instances where you're sure about the space, but you're not sure about, is this founder the right person for the space, right? So you want to believe in the opportunity, but you don't know if this founder is the right person for the opportunity. That's always a tough one, because also the reason it's tough is because also founders evolve. So you're making a judgment on a person at that point in time, but that person may also grow and actually prove you wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that happens.
Yeah.
And it's happened in a couple cases.
One habit that you've picked up from your strict childhood that still helps you?
Stay curious.
If not into venture capital, what would Prakash do today?
Be a founder again.
One piece of advice that you'd like to give your 25-year-old? itself?
I would say that, and this is the Indian context. In the Indian context, I would say that there couldn't be a better time to build something and find intersect your passion with the multitude of opportunities that there are in the country. And there's everything going for you, whether it's capital, whether it's policy, or whether it's the global opportunity.
Awesome. Now we have some young audience questions. Are you game?
Yes.
All right.
My question to Prashant Prakash sir is that for Indian founders, which Silicon Valley startup advice is actively harmful when applied here?
I would say, being able to blitz scale something is good, but scaling something without the right understanding, the right value of what you're scaling, and understanding if you've foundationally built the right economic model for what you're scaling, I would say that sometimes that the leeway for being able to build in a environment in globally, which is from a capital perspective even more abundant, may sometimes be not so productive or practical in India. So here I think it's really important to understand that how can you still be frugal and value conscious and see the realities of the consumer or the ecosystem here before you kind of make these very high burn business plans.
I am Ashutosh Mishra and I am from Accel Bihar. My question is, when everyone is moving faster and things aren't working, how should a founder decide whether to continue or pivot?
So really, I think one thing to try to first ask yourself very honestly is, are you still relevant in that space? Is the product that you set out to do, is the consumer still looking for it? And are you the right person from what you have been through and from a journey perspective, the right person to build? Or has something shifted and either your competition has gone way ahead of you and you're no longer relevant, or the consumer, your insights on what the consumer wanted was also not the right insight, right? In both these cases, I would pivot.
Namaskar, sir. My question is that a lot of students believe that starting up early in their career is the fastest path to success. But from everything that you've seen in your experience, do you think this is true for most people?
I would say for most people, no. For most people, I think it is good to post your graduation, take time to understand the right experience that you need to build, find the right opportunities to be close to the process of company building, and be cognizant of the depth of knowledge you really need to acquire before you can actually envision a product in that space. I think it's about being ready in all these dimensions. So it's not, and so I would say, I would put this, the answer for this in a very different way. I would say, before somebody is starting out, has there been at least couple years that you've kind of spent time understanding the space and have the right background and capabilities to be able to build in that space?
Very interesting. Prashant, Viksit Bharat 2047 is a vision that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has shown to us.
Right.
There is a lot of optimism and excitement about it. When you peep into the future and when you look at 2047, where do you see our country and what role do you think our startups would be playing at that time?
I think you've spoken a lot about the role of startups in being central to the economy. I think that's going to become even more amplified by the time we get to Viksit Bharat. But I think the bigger thing, that change that we'll see when we get to Viksit Bharat, is that the ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem that we are building here is going to be at the forefront of building global innovation. So we are not going to be followers or co-builders, but we are going to be creators of new technologies, creators of new capabilities for the rest of the world. So I think that's one dimension that I see, that the evolution of the startup ecosystem will be at a stage where, you know, we will just play a very different and more pivotal role as technology creators and innovation builders for the world.
Prashant, it's been an absolute pleasure to be in conversation with you. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for the motivation.
Thank
it was
you so
fantastic.
Much. Thank you, Sharath. It was great to do this with you.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.